Hi, everybody. Okay, so this video, I'm going to go over or explain Flannery O'Connor's short story, A Good Man is Hard to Find. So as we know, it actually has nothing to do with finding a man, unfortunately for some of us. So this would fall into the category of another kind of Gothic, a Southern Gothic, if you will. And why? Because it has to deal with the idea of morality and religion. Okay, so one of the biggest things is that even though there's multiple characters, there's really only two major characters that we need to worry about here, the grandmother and the misfit. But before I get into why we're only going to worry about them, let's talk about the rest of them. Okay, so we have Bailey. He is the dad or the husband. It is our grandmother's son. Okay, that's Bailey, right? He seems to really love his mother, but his behavior gets the best of him. He gives into her request. He doesn't seem to know how to say no to his mom, but he also really doesn't do anything to stop the kids from behaving the way they do. So he's not exactly that authoritative role that he thinks he is. Okay, that brings us to his kids, John Wesley, and then of course June Star. So John Wesley is about 8. He's loud, he's obnoxious. They're both, both of the kids are pretty rude. And we also have June Star, who's also obnoxious. She speaks pretty loudly and speaks her mind. She makes, really not keen observations, but she makes these observations about people around her, like how the grandmother would want to go anywhere because she's so nosy. She's just very blunt and to the point. So that's June Star. I don't know her age though. And then of course we have the mother. We have the 2 kids' moms, okay, Bailey's wife. Now she's not given a name because her sole identity is mother. Okay, that's her only identity. And as we know, she is dangerously driving in the front seat while holding her child, her newborn, her baby, that also has no name because I don't know why. But again, it brings us back to that whole idea that her only role in this story, in this life, is to be a mother. Okay, she also is not very good at being authoritative. She doesn't really have a voice. She only has, I think, maybe 2 lines in the entire story. That's really it. And then we have Red Sammy Butts. Okay, he's the owner of the restaurant that they stop at when they get gas. And the grandmother tells him that he's a good man because he lets people eat without having to pay. Most people would say that that's really stupid of him, which I agree. I know that it's the South, but I don't know. Anyway, so he's the owner. His wife is there too. She's not given a name either. And then we have Bobby Lee and Hiram. They're 2 of the cohorts of the misfit, I guess if you want to say. They're hired help. They're escaped criminals. Bobby Lee's pretty fat, and June Star at some point calls him a pig or says he looks like a pig. Hiram, he just wears a gray hat and he kind of takes a look at the car. So those are our characters, okay? I know it's a lengthy list, but again, the only 2 that we really need to be focused on here are the grandmother and the misfit, okay? Sorry, my nose is really bothering me today. Anyway, where else did I want to go with this? So I guess let's talk about what happens. Okay, so in the beginning of the story, we open up with the grandmother saying how, she's really upset that she can't bring her cat, Pity Sing. That's really all she wants to do. And that she points out that, she has to wear a dress and a hat with, lace gloves because, if they get into an accident, she needs people to notice that she's a lady. This is very important to her. Some people say, make sure you wear clean underwear so that if you get into an accident, you have clean underwear on. I don't know what, I'm really not sure, to be honest, why she feels that she has to be seen as a lady in a potential car accident. I don't really know why it would matter. So you tell me why you think it might matter. It could be a sign of the times. Don't know. So anyway, before they leave and she's complaining about not being able to bring her cat, she points out that there is an escaped convict known as the Misfit who is heading towards Florida, and says, you know, like, I think that we should go to Tennessee because the Misfit is also going to Florida. The children have been to Florida, so we really shouldn't go there. Okay, so then John Wesley says, like, why doesn't she just stay home? And June Star is nasty and was like, Grandma would never do that because she's too nosy and has to be with us all the time. So anyway, the day of vacation, Grandma hides the cat pacing in the back of the car. This is very important. Again, she wears the dress, lace, and the hat because, you know, people have to know, okay, that she's a lady. So as they're going through Georgia because that's where they're leaving. And they pass a cotton field, and she says that there's graves in the middle of it that belong to the plantation, and jokes that the plantation has gone with the wind. Obviously, that is a throw to the movie and the story, Gone with the Wind. Later, she then tells about this old suitor that she had, Edgar Atkins Tea Garden. Okay, and Edgar used to bring her a watermelon in which he would carve his initials, EAT, eat. He once left it on the porch, and a black child ate it because he thought it said eat and not, you know, his initials. Just as a little anecdote, I guess, to try to make her a little more human and a little more likable. Okay, so as the family is on their way, they end up stopping at a restaurant, the Tower, which is Red Sammy Butts. Okay, and he complains that people are untrustworthy, and he let these men, okay, buy gas on credit. And the grandmother says, well, you're obviously a good man for doing so. But Red Sammy's wife says he doesn't trust anybody, or I'm sorry, says that she doesn't trust anybody, including Red Sammy. And, you know, they say, the grandmother says, like, hey, have you heard about this misfit? Like, what are you guys doing? And the wife is like, yeah, he's probably going to rob us. And that's when Red Sammy says, a good man is hard to find. Okay. So now they're just talking about being a good person. So the term man in this part is really just people, not singular to men. Okay, so then they go back in the car, and, you know, Grandma is kind of looking around. She goes, hey, you know, I think that there's a plantation around here that I've been to. It has a secret panel in the house, and it's super cool. Why don't we stop? And the kids are like, oh yeah, I want to see the secret panel. Like, yeah, let's do it, Dad. And Dad's like, oh my God, I really don't want to, but fine, because he's kind of a pushover. So he finally says, like, okay, fine. Grandma points down a road and says it's down here. As the family is driving, the grandma remembers that, oh shit, the house was in Tennessee, not here in Georgia. So she decides to keep this a secret. She doesn't want to tell Bailey that she messed up, because obviously then they've gone out of their way for no reason. And as she's realizing this mistake, she kicks the basket at her feet, and Pitty Singh jumps out of the basket, you know, the cat, lands on Bailey, who then crashes the car because of the cat. The mother breaks her shoulder, and remember, she's holding the baby as they're driving. So, like, I don't know how the baby didn't die, but anyway, I digress. Okay, so everybody, you know, the car accident happens. Okay, after this happens and everybody kind of, you know, is like, oh my goodness, is everybody okay? June Star makes a really snide comment, like, oh, but nobody died or nobody's hurt, because she's just kind of, she's a little weird. So anyway, the car passes them and they stop, and 3 men get out and they're carrying guns. Okay. The grandmother is like, I know you. Now, here's where everybody really hates the grandmother, because the grandmother just cannot help herself but say, I recognize you. Holy shoot, you are the misfit. Grandma, if you just kept your darn mouth shut, they probably would have walked away. Let's be honest, okay? So the one man walks around and he has sunglasses on, but he has no shirt. He goes to the ditch and he says, you know, why don't you guys sit down? The kids are making me nervous. Tell them to be quiet. Okay, so as the grandmother points out that she now knows that that's the misfit, he was like, I really wish you didn't say that. And I think he too, to some degree, did not want to be recognized, because I don't think he wanted to commit any more crimes. I do believe that he just would have said, I'm going to take your car and be on my way had they not recognized who he was. Okay, so now Bailey is super mad because like, Mom, why'd you have to go and say that? Okay, and the misfit, or I'm sorry, the grandmother then is like, oh, you wouldn't shoot a lady, would you? And he's like, I don't see a lady. Anyway, so she really tries to play it up to him, saying that you're a good man, you're one of God's children, like you're one of my children. I can tell that you're good and you come from nice people. And the misfit agrees and praises his parents, but he also says that like he's been accused of killing his dad. Okay. He really doesn't know if he did it or not. And he's like, and if I did, I guess, oh, well, because it doesn't really matter if I did or didn't do it. I've been in jail this whole time because they told me that's what I did. So we'll never know if he truly killed his father or not, but I digress. Okay, so the grandmother continues to tell him that he's a good man. And while this is happening, the two men, Hiram and Bobby Lee, first take Bailey and John Wesley into the woods and shoots them. Okay, and he takes one of their shirts to give to wear. So the misfit says that he knows he's not really good, but he also knows that he's not the worst person either. And he apologizes to grandma and the kids and the mother for not wearing a shirt because it's impolite, it's rude. So he takes, that's where the shirt comes from Bailey. Anyway, so then the grandmother then asks if he ever prays to Jesus. He says no. She hears the gunshots of killing John Wesley and Bailey. She's, very upset and whatever. But we'll let's look at the fact that the grandmother is not pleading for the lives of everyone. She's simply pleading for her own life. She doesn't say, please don't kill, my daughter-in-law, please don't kill my grandkids, like don't shoot me. All she cares about is don't shoot me because I'm a lady. Another reason that people generally dislike the grandmother. Okay. So as the grandmother and the misfit are having this discussion, the misfit says that he used to be a gospel singer. So she starts to say like, pray. And he says he's not a bad child, but he went to prison for this crime he can't remember committing, okay, killing his father. He tells us that the shrink at the jail, at the prison, told him that that's what he did. And so he figures, well, I must have done it because that's what they're saying. And it doesn't really matter because I'm being punished for it regardless of if I did it or not. It doesn't seem to matter if I'm good or bad. They see it this way, and this is what's going to happen anyway. Okay, so Bobby and Hiram come back from the woods. The misfit asks the mother if she and her daughter would like to join her husband and son, and she says yes, and she just kind of walks away. She takes the baby, she takes June Star, they walk into the woods and they die. She doesn't even put up a fight. So to be honest, I think that the mom was just tired, but it's just, anyway, sorry. So Bobby Lee tries to hold on to June Star's hand to like bring her. And that's when she says like, you look like a pig. So obviously that kind of pisses them off. Doesn't really matter though, because they're going to die anyway. So the grandmother is chanting again, Jesus, Jesus. The misfit says he likes Jesus, except that Jesus hadn't committed a crime. He says, he gave himself a name because his punishment doesn't seem to fit the crime people say he committed. Again, this is when grandma's like, you wouldn't shoot a lady. 2 more gunshots, happen. Grandma cries out for Bailey, even though he's been dead already. So then they have this discussion about Jesus and how he raises the dead. And so the misfit says that he's confused. And if that's true, then everybody must follow him. But if he didn't do it, then all anybody can do is enjoy their time here, being mean. So the grandmother agrees that maybe he didn't raise the dead, but the misfit says that he wishes he could have been there. And at this point now, the grandmother reaches out and touches her and calls him one of my own children. And the misfit kind of reacts and shoots her right there. Okay. And he laments at this point that she would have been a good person if somebody had been there to shoot her all the time, every minute of her life. And he says that there's no real, true pleasure in murdering somebody. So now this is where it kind of gets confusing for a lot of readers, is what does it mean that, he says to her, she would have been a good woman if somebody had been around to shoot her every minute of her life? It means that that's the only time that she's acting good. is when her life is at risk. So that's kind of a big deal because it insinuates that she's really kind of a shitty person. And she is. Let's call it what it is. She doesn't care about anybody else. She doesn't even plead for the lives of her kids or her grandkids. Okay, so the grandmother and the misfit are representations of good and evil. So the grandmother is supposed to be good. She's supposed to be the representation of good, because when we think of grandmas, we think of, I don't know, warm cookies, that really maternal role, that loving role, hugs and kisses and being spoiled. Okay, it's the typical grandma. When we think of somebody called the misfit, we're supposed to think of evil and wrongdoing and, like he says, the crime and punishment. Okay, so that's what they're used to play at. However, they're gonna continue to go like this throughout the story, that the grandma's good and then all of a sudden she's bad, the misfit's good and then he's bad, and back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so they show us that people are not necessarily good and stay good, that we're a bit of everything in between. Okay, that's what they're really used to do. Bear with me. Okay, so religion plays a big role in this, obviously, towards the end when the misfit shows up. Give me a second. So the biggest theme here is the definition of a good man. Okay, everybody seems to have a different definition. Then we have the recipients of grace. Okay, so this is another theme. The grandmother says that she and the misfit are both recipients of grace, despite their flaws, their sins, their weaknesses, and that they should be granted salvation, okay, because of things that they did. However, the grandmother is not going to receive it because she's manipulative. She is constantly thinking about herself only and not anyone else. And, she tells the misfit that he should pray. Okay, so the misfit, for his part, is unrepentant in murdering people. However, he gets some grace because we can tell, or we're supposed to be able to tell, that he was not going to shoot them had she not said, "I recognize who you are." Okay. They really do have the potential to be saved by God, but it's not going to happen because we have to have that dichotomy, that balancing act, that seesaw of good and evil. All right. There's also the idea that good men or good people is a thing of the past, that as time has gone on, being a decent human being has been forgotten. Okay, so we learn this from the interaction mostly with Red Sammy, and the memory of Edgar Atkins Teagarden. Okay, that something as simple as bringing a watermelon carved with his initials on it, that's a good thing. That a decent person did that. And Red Sammy was a decent person because he allowed people to pay for gas on credit and not something else. He didn't say like, "No, you can't get this." He said, "Yeah, I see you have to get where you're going. Be gone. Here's your gas." Okay, so there's the idea of nostalgia that kind of stays in there. The idea of the grandmother telling us in the beginning of the story that she wants to be seen as a lady. Okay, she is very particular about that, and she continually says like that she is a lady, or tries to insist more that she's a lady. It goes to what she's wearing. She has the lace gloves, she has the nice dress, she has a hat on. Okay, so now if we can remember this very small detail, when they get into the car accident, the hat falls off. Okay, so the idea that her sense of being a lady is gone. Okay, she is unconcerned with the fact that her family is dead and completely essentially oblivious to this fact. She cares only that like her hat is ruined. So it's now that this concept of being a lady is gone, and now the idea of being a good person, sorry, I don't know what that noise was, is still like more in her head of how can I insist to this person, to this misfit, that I'm a good person and you shouldn't shoot me. I think that's really all that I wanted to talk about, but let me just look through my notes one more time. Bear with me, guys. No. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. I mean, that really is most of what I wanted to talk about. So the biggest thing here for you guys to take away is that the misfit, you know, it's up to you if you think the misfit really committed the crime that he says he did. It's really what makes him good or evil, however you want to look at. He says, I found out the crime don't matter. You can do one thing or you can do another, kill a man or take a tire off his car, because sooner or later you're going to forget what it was you did or what it was you done and just be punished for it. So now he's talking about obviously killing his father. And how, you know, he doesn't remember doing it, but that's what everybody's telling him he did. So it doesn't matter if he did or didn't do it, he's paying for it anyway. So essentially it doesn't matter if he's good or bad, because I still have to pay for it. Okay, so the biggest themes here are going to be good versus evil and the idea of religion. I think that's it for A Good Man Is Hard to Find. So I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you enjoyed the story. And I think that's about it. All right. Bye, guys.